And it's time to go live in sound and vision. Let's go racing. Hello everybody and welcome to Elkhart Lake. We've been racing here for a very long time. Not always at the circuit. It originally started on the roads around this area, and the track, all 4 miles of it, reflects the kind of roads and back roads that we used to race on back in the 1950s. Mother Nature playing her part again here at America's National Park of Speed as we're ready to go racing for the Road America 120. There is rain in the air. More than that, it is falling at the moment. Should at least make the starting tyre choice a bit easier for everyone. We're a little north of Wisconsin. Normally we'll drive up from Chicago actually to get here. It's a nice drive. 4 miles, 14 corners. Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Fabulous place to be in the summer. Great countryside around the area of the racetrack. Turn 1, insanely quick turn into it actually. Then down the hill to turn 3. The kink at turn 2 is not worthy of a turn number, to be honest. And then over the top of the brow, down to turn 5. Climb up under the bridge to turn 6. And then through turn 7 again, a very quick kink. Turn 8 leads in to the right-hander at the carousel, and then you're running down what is effectively a street course, to be honest, because you've got concrete both sides through one of the fastest corners in road racing anywhere in the world, the kink, and down to Canada corner. Drizzling at the moment is what we're hearing at the circuit. Sheena Monk in the Motorsports in Action McLaren 570 GT4 trying to warm her Michelin, what I anticipate will be on the 4 corners of that. Jeremy Shaw said it's not a kink, it's a corner. Yeah, you're absolutely right, it's called the kink, but my goodness me, you have to commit to it, and in this weather it is going to, well, they say fortune favours the brave here. I'm not sure about that in these conditions. Ask Catherine Legg, she had a big incident down here in a single-seater days, but still went on to have good results here. So Jeremy Shaw is with me in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Jeremy, 2 hours, pit stops, rain, fast circuit, big field. We are missing the Rebel Rock Racing Camaro. They've found some damage to the car that they think is too extensive for them to fix here at the track. So we're 1 car down. What are we going to see this afternoon into this evening?
Yeah, what can possibly go wrong? Yeah, we've had some messy races, haven't we, lately? But we've also seen some fantastic competition. I'd certainly expect that today. But conditions, certainly in the early stages, at the very least, are going to be pretty treacherous. We didn't really see, we don't know what tyres everybody is on, but certainly there's some wiper blades moving back and forth in quite a few of these cars. So I think one has to presume most of them are on wet weather tyres. It's going to be tricky.
We have seen the TCR cars sometimes, Jeremy, be as quick as the GT4s, the GSs up front. Now, this is a fast circuit, but at the start of the race at least, and we will have a split start here, there's a lot of standing water. It's going to be greasy. The front wheel drive cars will warm up those driven wheels very quickly indeed, and they may have a slight advantage early on.
I completely agree. The top TCR cars are definitely going to be well up amongst the GS cars, and perhaps even better than that for some of them in the early stages. This is going to be really tricky out there. It is quite wet. Now we get a proper view of the racetrack, and it is pretty wet. So I think, yeah, everybody's almost certainly going to be on wet weather tyres. But if there's no more rain, you know, it'll dry out pretty quickly. It's certainly pretty warm out there. 90% humidity, 22 degrees air temperature. That's only, 70s or so, isn't it? So it's not as hot as it has been here, but I think the track will still dry fairly quickly if there is no more serious precipitation.
Jeremy Shaw then was his thoughts. The safety car lights are out on the Corvette, the C8 safety car. We had some of the first views of that car here a couple of years ago down at the TAF Centre, which is where IMSA President John Doonan delivered the State of the Sport address last night. We'll be speaking to him in Midweek Motorsport over on RS1 next Wednesday to go through the salient points. We've got 2 hours on the clock. That's where the 120 of the Road America 120 comes from. And stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next 120 minutes, to paraphrase the start of Jerry Anderson's Stingray. Green flag, and we are running here at Road America. Overcast skies, a little bit of spray in the air, and the Turner Motorsport BMW M4 GT4 goes to the lead. Front engine, rear wheel drive, slightly drifting through turn number 1, but well inside the track limits there. That's something to watch at turn 1. There is a curb on the outside that's marked, but beyond that there will be penalties applied. Not a great exit from turn 3 by the leader, and that's allowing a challenge for the lead as the Hyundai leads through from Ryan Norman. The Elantra, the number 98, leads through the TCR start as they go down towards turn 1, but there's already a challenge for the lead. And down into turn 5, the white and blue GT4 AMG Mercedes, that's I think Russell Ward from Winward Racing who's got the better of the starts. Looks up the inside of the Corvette bridge. Yes, it is the white with the blue and red flashings on the sides. That's a brilliant run from Russell Ward, who started in 4th position and is already battling for the lead. Now just drops back into 2nd, and in behind there, the Not Lab Racing Aston Martin by RS1. That's the red Aston Martin. 46 going through turn, the Camaro through turn number 8. It's one of the TGM cars as well. Very, very even start, Jeremy, in difficult conditions. The drivers will be feeling their way around these first couple of laps.
Yeah, tremendous start there by Russell Ward. As you said, really putting the pressure here on Dylan McAvoy halfway around his first lap to go through the kick there. That's going to be pretty sketchy. Patrick Gallagher got a good run through the kick. I think he might have a run here on Russell Ward, maybe get back that 2nd place heading towards Canada corner. Ryan Hardwick, he was certainly pretty conservative there to start in the number 16 that started on the inside of the front row, second row, excuse me.
Yeah, and this is all about at the moment just finding where the grip is. This is literally a voyage of discovery. And Shea Adam, with news from Race Control that will help us and everybody trackside know who is on wet tyres and if there are anybody who's gone out on slick. Shea, what do you know?
I love Race Control. Cars on rain tires must use rain lights. So if we see any sort of flashing on the back of the car, or if we see headlights turned on from these race cars, which, let's face it, given the conditions that they're currently running in, you should have your headlights turned on, we'll know if they're on rains. And it looks to me like everybody has their headlights on, so everybody out there, at least those not dropping backwards, they're all on rains.
Yeah, the high intensity red lights at the back as well, whether they're part of the spoilers as they are in the Aston Martin, or whether they're in the rear light clusters as they are in the BMW, yet they are on for the lead cars. Problems for the Liqui Moly Audi, just running wide at turn 7. That's allowed the, well, I was going to say, has it allowed the 84 Honda to go through? Yes, it has, and that is one of the Atlanta Speedworks cars that was making up position there. Brian Henderson going through into 2nd position ahead of the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport Audi. Drops back into 3rd. Now that's the car, I think, Shea, that had a bit of a nasty moment at Canada Corner yesterday.
One of the Michelins made a bid for freedom. I think it was the left rear, actually. Thought that it could get to Canada by leaving the track at turn 9. And very odd, too, because it had held on for the entirety of the lap and then let go. It was Brian Henderson behind the wheel then. as well.
Shea Adam, as we have a spinner, and it's one of the car barn Audis. The number 93 car has gone around. I don't think there's been any contact with anything that looks remotely so no, I say that, and there is problem on the right front of that car, so that is going to be a problem, and that car will drop very quickly. That is turn number 6, so just after the bottom of the hill at the back of the paddock, going up underneath the Corvette bridge, and it is trying to continue at the moment. I'll give you an update in just a second, but that car is very quickly was the car bomb with Peregrine GT4, and Mark Siegel behind the wheel of that car, and he's struggling there, Jeremy, to get that car mobile again.
Yes, Dad Mark driving this weekend. It was Nolan who did a great job last week to finish in the top 6 with Tom Dyer, and Mark here, Dad, he qualified the car nicely in 12th position, made up a couple of places on the first lap, but then it all went wrong with a spin there at turn 6. So that's a shame for him, but he's certainly gaining in experience here, and hopefully he can get that car out of the way so we don't have to go full course caution.
He'd been running 10th position there, Jeremy, so that was a decent start for Mark, as the rain perhaps is easing a little bit, and I can see a little bit of a lighter colour on the racetrack, although the windscreen wipers are still on the leading cars. And up into second, by the way, whilst we were looking at that, the Aston Martin Not Lad Racing car has gone through. It's not led by RS1, so Pat Gallagher up into second, ahead of Russell Ward, who drops back down to third. So it's BMW, Aston, Mercedes, Aston. All the top 4 cars, front engine, rear wheel drive. First the mid-engine cars, it is in 5th position with Ryan Hardwick in the 718 Cayman, and we have a full course yellow, and that is for the Audi that has not been able to continue. Just off to driver's right, around where the leaders are now, into right on the apex actually of turn 7. And it looks like there's damage to the front right of that car, so there has been a bit of contact. I thought that they'd got away with that. So early yellow, not going to benefit anybody at the moment, but everybody, Jeremy, will go into fuel save mode, because that car will need to be recovered, and this just stretches the fuel window a tiny bit.
Yeah, unfortunate for that carbine too, particularly after a super run last time out at Lime Rock Park. Yeah, Mark seems to be stranded there. That's a shame he wasn't able to get that car out of the way, because there certainly wasn't. Well, I guess there probably is damage, because he did hit the wall on the left-hand side of the track fairly hard, didn't he? He got the car back onto the racing surface, then across to the right-hand side of the track, and that's where it kind of ground to a halt. The top 3 or 4 had kind of distanced themselves from Ryan Hardwick in 5th position at the start there, but Dylan McAbern has been holding on in the Telemark BMW ahead of the Not Lad Racing Aston, and then the Mercedes of Russell Ward and Alan Brynjolfsson hanging in there as well in the second Aston Martin, that car from the Archangel Volts Racing stable. Michael Herzin made a brilliant effort in the early going there to move up into the 6th position overall, having started in 10th. So a fine effort once again for the FCP Euro Mercedes. We saw it having a super run also last time out at Lime Rock Park, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Shea Adam, what are you hearing about the weather conditions at the circuit from your contacts in the paddock?
The rain seems to be easing a tiny bit, but it's a false sense of security, because there is a lot more rain coming right behind it. And if you actually look over towards Canada Corner, towards the carousel, on that portion of the track, it looks a lot darker than it does on the front straight. So the front is continuing to move through. The good news is there's no lightning in this storm. The bad news is there's a whole lot of rain, and it's going to keep on falling.
Shea Adam with that VP Racing Field Pit and Paddock report. Will split the classes here, Jeremy, and the faster GS cars will go back to the head of the safety car team with safety car line. Well, actually, maybe we won't actually, because it is a short yellow, of course. We're inside the first 15 minutes of this race. So let's just take stock of what's going on. Dylan McIvern still leading for Turner Motorsport in the BMW GT4. Turner Motorsport, and that looks like there's been slightly more damage than we perhaps thought on that carbon Audi GT4. That car on the damp grass is taking a wee bit of recovery by our hard-working track services and recovery teams. Shea Adam, opportunity whilst we're under yellow to talk about one or two changes for next year that were announced last night, including new for 2022, the Bronze Cup.
This is pretty cool, actually. It's an initiative by IMSA to acknowledge the best bronze driver in the series. Not only at the end of the season, they will have their own championship, but race on race, the best finishing bronze driver in each race will receive their own separate trophy. So a bit of acknowledgement. We've had a Bronze Cup in other forms of IMSA before. For example, the Prototype Challenge has had a Bronze Cup for a little while now. But for example, if we were to put that into play for this year, right now out on the racetrack in 4th and 5th position, we've got Alan Brynjolfsson in the Volt Racing Aston Martin and Ryan Hardwick in the Wright Motorsport Porsche, both bronze-rated drivers. So they would be fighting for their own trophy. The top 3 drivers on the track right now, McIvern, Gallagher, and Ward, they're all silver-rated drivers. So as long as you have one bronze driver in the car, you're going for this new Bronze Cup. I like it.
Yeah, and another reason for people to get involved. IMSA watching on with what's going on, and also, Jeremy, listening to their constituents, which are the people who are putting the cars on the track. People like to race for trophies, and if you're a gentleman driver, you like to have your efforts recognised. And quite often in Pro-Am, it is, how good the gentlemen do that dictates how far the car gets up the field.
Very true. Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great idea. And, with pro drivers per se, or at least platinum and gold rated drivers on the sort of international scale, there's platinum, gold, silver and bronze. Only silver and bronze drivers are allowed to compete in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, much to the chagrin, particularly of a lot of gold-rated drivers. But those are the rules. But as you say there, anybody, you don't have to have a bronze driver in your car in this series, but you do have to. But those that do have 2 bronze drivers in particular will be recognised. I like it.
So under the safety car, Corvette is back out at the front of the field. In TCR, Ryan Norman has held on to the lead in the Elantra number 98 from Brian Herter Autosport. Brian Henderson, Atlanta Speedworks, did make the move in the FK7 Honda Civic TCR and gets up into second ahead of Chris Miller in the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport Audi RS3 sequential gearbox, that car. Then it's another Elantra. Harry Gottsaka starts the 33 car. Then another Hyundai, but this time a Veloster. So a couple of different shapes on those cars. And it is the Van der Steur racing car, the 19 top 6 made up by Copeland Motorsports in their very brightly coloured Hyundai Veloster. So plenty of Hyundai action, 4 out the top 6 with a Honda and an Audi in there as well. That's the top 6 in the TCR category. Looks like the rain is easing a little bit. The umbrellas have gone down at Canada Corner. Plenty of people sitting with just their T-shirts on, getting ready to go back to racing with an hour and 46 minutes still to go. 87.9 FM around the track. We've got a scanner frequency too for 454 even. And of course on RS2 IMSA Radio around the world. For the big race tomorrow, we're on XM202 as well, so no reason for you to miss any of the action, with warm-up as well as the big race tomorrow covered by us here on IMSA Radio from the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. And we are the only place for that warm-up coverage, and we will have full live coverage in sound and vision. For those of you outside the US, of the race tomorrow, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race tomorrow, and that's flag to flag. If you're here in the US, there is so much going on with our TV colleagues at NBCSN with NASCAR from the Glen. Then it's Indy from the Big Machine Grand Prix at Nashville. And then IMSA on tape delay, 8 o'clock in the evening. So if you're here trackside, you've got time to get somewhere, settle yourself down, maybe have a bite to eat and sit and watch the race back. If you're not trackside, then set your video recorders of whatever type that you have for 8 o'clock Eastern, that is, on NBCSN. Brian Till, along with the rest of the NBCSN team, bringing you coverage from the race tomorrow. Not sure how much time we're going to have to watch all of the racing that's going on this weekend. Everything crushed together again in the second half of the season. Also makes things difficult for the teams. Not much time to fix anything that goes wrong, so getting a car to the end of the race without it having to be stitched back together again, really quite important at this business end of the season. Safety car lights are out. We're under an hour and 44 minutes to go. We'll go back to green flag racing as they crest the rise this time around. Dylan McAvern then will take control of the field for Turner Motorsport and their BMW M4 GT4. The Corvette C8 safety car pulls away and leaves it in the capable hands then of Dylan, with Pat Gallagher in the Not Lad Racing by RS1 Aston Martin Vantage GT4 sitting in behind in that reddy orange car. The white and blue AMG GT4 is the Winward Racing Mercedes, number 4 of Russell Ward, out in the final corner, up the hill. Not as much spray now. Now, they're not going as quickly, but I do think it's drying out, and they started on wet weather tyres. This is going to be interesting. Cross the line. Good restart for Turner Motorsport and Dylan McAvern. He's got a car's length, maybe 2, between himself and the Aston Martin Vantage in second place. Russell Ward gets another good restart, as he did at the start of the race, and he puts pressure on the Aston Martin that moves across. Oh, now that was a late move by the Aston, now dashed down the inside of the leader at turn 3, coming from a very long way back, now drops to left-hand side. Michelin's onto the dirt at the exit of turn number 3, and that may well prove a little bit of an undoing for Pat Gallagher there, as Russell Ward goes round the outside into turn number 5. That's a tough pass to make. Gallagher moving back on the racing line again. Gonna have to be careful. Pick a line and stick to it. That's the regulations here. And here comes Ward up the inside again. Gets alongside TGM Camaro, also squealing the tyres even in the wet. A huge sideways slide by Jeff Mosing in the 56 Murillo Racing, the metallic cinnamon coloured AMG further back. There's some great racing going on here, Jeremy, as a big dive down the inside by the number 8 Audi, the McCann racing car. That's for 7th position on Hugh Plum in that Chevy Camaro. Great battling in the bottom end of the top 10.
Very much so, and Jeff Mosey made a move on Michael McCann there at that restart. Ooh, a big slide for Dylan McAvern there, the 2017 GS champion coming out of the carousel. That's the goal now. Patrick got to pull alongside and then take the lead into the kick. Boy, that was a big slide that McAvern did a great job to retain control of that Turner Motorsport BMW, but he has lost the position. Could have been a lot worse than that.
Defence again by Gallagher down the inside from Russell Ward in the white, blue and red 3rd place AMG GT4. Right in behind him now, Anand Brynjolfsson having a great start of the race in the Vault Racing with Archangel Aston Martin. Brynjolfsson, even in the murky conditions, you absolutely have to say that car stands out. Don't forget, we'll be looking for our Michelin moment of the race, as nominated by my colleagues here on IMSA Radio. You've got any suggestions at IMSA Radio? It was side by side coming out of the carousel, and that caused the leader Dylan McAvern, Jeremy, to have to pinch that that BMW down a little bit to the right-hand side, which I think is what initially unsettled the rear Michelins on that car. That was pressure coming from Pat Gallagher. I think had a part to play there.
I completely agree there. It was really tight. Great drive there by Dill. It would have been much easier just to run wide and push Gallagher off the road. So I give him great credit for being as absolutely fair, and more so than anybody could have possibly expected there. Cost him a position, but he's able to tuck in there in the second place. And just a few corners earlier, Patrick Gallagher kind of outbraked himself at turn 5, and it looked like Russell Ward might make a move to the inside into 6th, but he was able to hold that position, and now it's Patrick Gallagher in the lead of this race. Ryan Hardwick, by the way, he's all of a sudden slipped back again at the restart in car number 16, back now to 10th position.
Look at Chris Smith watching along. Not sure where you are in the world, but thank you for joining us on IMSA Radio, on IMSA TV. He's tweeted in at IMSA Radio. That's how you get in touch with us here in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. TCR battle. Elantra just a little bit longer in the wheelbase than the Veloster, which was the previous iteration of their TCR car. That might be a little bit of an advantage in these conditions. Gives a slightly more stable platform, particularly when the car is moving around. The TCRs, Jeremy, as you suggested, they might be beginning to pull their way through the back of the GS field in these wet and drying conditions, but still clearly very, very slippery out there. The front wheel drive cars really making hay at the moment as they come through the back of the GS field. They
are, and some of them are quite a bit quicker. There is the Chris Miller, who started in the second position in the TCR. He's running third right now behind Brian Henderson and Ryan Norman. The pollsters, they've pulled out just a little bit on that first lap again. They're both trying to get their way past Ted Giovannis in number 64 Team TGM Chevrolet. Tyler Gonzalez making good progress, running car number 27 in TCR, up into the 6th position, I think. Completing lap 7 and a lead of 1.6 seconds now for Patrick Gallagher, who sets a new fastest lap of the race this time around, 1:23.0, so a second and a half quicker than the previous lap, and stretching out just a little bit now over Dylan McIvern. Russell Ward hanging there in 3rd position. Not behind, far behind him is Alan Brynjolfsson. Then the excellent, once again, Michael Herzin in 5th position for FCP Euro.
Adam keeping a weather eye out, and I mean that literally, and this VP Racing Fuel, well, weather report, quite honestly.
Not quite a meteorologist, but I'll take weatherwoman for today. It is starting to rain again, heavier, and they are big raindrops starting to fall just before the carousel and that portion of the track. It's not a fun place for it to lose grip, but for these drivers going through for the first time, they're about to discover just how little there is around that portion of the track.
Keep in touch with what's going on. This actually, with the rain starting to fall a little heavier, may not be the worst thing for the Michelin tyres actually. If it dries out too much, you tend to wear the Michelin wets out. They're not made to run in dry conditions. They are particularly durable actually. Talking to the teams, they've been impressed with how well they do last, but they will lose performance. And you start to wear the rubber blocks, and they start to move around if they overheat. They are made to be used in wet conditions, and wet conditions tend to mean cooler track temperatures. The temperature at the moment is still relatively warm at 23 Celsius, which on the Fahrenheit scale is still fairly toasty. In the air at the moment it's 22, which is a warm summer's day. In the northeast of the United Kingdom, where I come from, that would be shorts and a t-shirt, whether it was raining or not, quite honestly. But a little less warm. 92% humidity is what we're hearing from the Alcamel readout and the official timing. You can follow along, by the way, if you go to IMSA.com, access to the Alcamel system from IMSA.com. 73 Fahrenheit on the track, 72 in the air for those of you who use Fahrenheit. And still over 90 minutes to go. Gallagher from McEvan at the front of the field. Aston Martin from BMW, from AMG, from Aston Martin in 4th position. And then carving their way through the FCP Euro team. The number 11 car, Jeremy, in 5th position.
Really fine run there by Michael Hirschen again. He and Nate Vincent had a great run last time out at Lime Rock Park. They ended up in the 9th position, but for a while they were looking even better than that. Michael Hirschen, he is the FCP brand manager. He's an OEM online supplier, but he's certainly doing a fine job at the moment, holding off a big train of cars and trying to make a move there on, or trying to stay ahead, I should say, of Hugh Plum, who's got a massive amount of experience in this sort of car.
Front of TCR, Atlanta Speedworks trying to put a bit of pressure on Brian Herder Autosport. The Honda Civic just half a second behind Ryan Norman, 21st position overall. Off goes Hugh Plum, 46 Camaro, the dark grey and Stars and Stripes machine, pointing in the wrong direction for a moment at the top of the hill at turn 6. He goes the long way around so that he can see to get back on the track, but he's losing a huge amount of real estate. There go the TCR leaders as he rejoins, and he's spun out of 6th position, Jeremy. Now, did he jump or was he push?
Yeah, he was trying to get past Michael Hirschen. They went up into that corner pretty much side by side. Hirschen is on the inside.
Oh, it's a touch.
Yeah, but you know, he knows there's a car on his inside. He's massively experienced. You don't turn in on somebody there. You just got to give the guy room and anticipate him sliding wide at the apex of the corner, particularly when you know it's somebody who doesn't have a huge amount of experience running at this level. So, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. And for me, I'm surprised that Hugh was kind of pushing the envelope that hard at that point in the early proceedings of this race.
Penalty for the number 65 Murillo Racing AMG Shea Adam, and this is an odd one. It might not lead to anything during the race, though.
No, this is a post-race infraction. They were working on the car after the 10-minute mark was given. Now, this is basically a timeline of when you have to stop doing things on the grid. You can't put tires on the car after the 5-minute mark, for example. You have to have everything ready to go before then. If you do any sort of work to the car after the 10-minute mark, you could be disqualified then and there on the spot. Well, it has been reported that that car was having work done. The 65 Murillo Racing Mercedes, by the way, this weekend has Kenny Murillo as one of the 2 drivers, and he was quickest in one of the practice sessions yesterday. This is a big infraction, and it's going to result in a post-race technical inspection, meaning that no matter where that car finishes, they're going to have to go report to the principals afterwards.
Yeah. Very interesting, and that is that's an odd one. I suppose it'll depend what they find at that point as to what happens, but they're still in the race for the moment, coming down to an hour and a half still remaining, and Pat Gallagher is making his bid for Freyden in the Not Lad Racing by RS1. 2.3 seconds at the front of the field. He's clearing off since he got by the Turner Motorsport BMW. Dylan McEvan, though, still sitting in second by about a second. He has the advantage on Russell Ward, who's gone by Alan Brynjolfsson back up into 3rd position. Brynjolfsson, sorry, still in 4th position. Aston BMW, Mercedes, Aston Martin. And Alan dropping about 7.5 seconds and is about a second ahead of the Hirschen-driven FCP Euro Mercedes, but now with Jeff Mosing closing in on him. That's an interesting little 3-car battle for 4th position, Jeremy, that is going to be heating up quite quickly. Best of the McLarens sitting down in 10th position at the moment. That's the Black Dog Speed Shop car. It's a decent run for them.
Yeah, Tony Gaples really doing a nice job in that car to get himself up inside the top 10. Started 13th, did Tony, and he's working his way up there. He's putting the pressure on Ryan Hardwick, who started on the second row of the grid. So that's been a really fine run by him in the early stages, but still a long, long way to go. And I think at this stage, John, is who can look after their tyres the best, because the track looks pretty dry for the most part. Having said that, underneath the trees, particularly down the bottom end of the racetrack, it's still pretty damp, and we can see some cars on the front straight moving around into the damper parts of the track to try and keep these tyres cool.
Where do we think, Jeremy, the pit window is for the GS cars at the front of the field? It's 2-stop normally in the 2-hour races for those cars.
Yeah, and with a slower pace, they'll get better fuel consumption they would as if it was dry. But I think it's still going to be a 2-stopper most likely, and it's the minimum drive time as usual. It's 40 minutes, isn't it? Which they have to do before they can change drivers in this race in order to meet the minimum drive time. So I wouldn't expect to see anybody on the pit lane just yet. We're just about half an hour into this race. There's the
hour and a half still to go then. Leader Aston Martin and Pat Gallagher, his lead just cut down to about a second and a half. It wasn't over 2 the last time I mentioned it, courtesy of the best lap of his race for Dylan McIvern in second position, 2:33.5. So just beginning to eat into that lead as the leader goes through the kink and really pressing the outside of the circuit there, run out over the curbs and onto the runoff area. Now down into Canada corner, and that car is moving around a little bit, wearing the tyres. Shea Adam, news on the leader.
A very impressive duo are Patrick Gallagher and Stephen McAleer, both graduates of the Mazda Road to Sports Cars, if you will, up through the years. 2012 MX5 Cup Shootout champion was Patrick Gallagher, and then the champion of the series in 2017, Stephen McAleer, champion of the series. I want to say it was back in 2012, maybe? It's been a while, but both of these guys teamed up 3 times so far this year for 2 previous races, including a win and a second place. Right now it's looking good again, because of course with Stephen McAleer up your sleeve, you're doing a massive rain dance. He's very good when the conditions are not good.
Yeah, a lot of experience in that team, although relatively new under that name, but RS1, they know which way is up. Rain starting to fall again down at turn 3. A bit more spray coming from the tyres as they head underneath the bridge and down through the kink towards turn number 4. Effectively a straight though. You come out of turn 3, your foot's on the floor all the way at the braking area at turn 5. Really murky. The headlights of these cars are pretty bright at the best of times, but as soon as it gets dark, you really see it. Oh, big dive down the outside by Jeff Mosing there, I think it was. Looked like he'd lost the front end of that car. He's battling with Bryce Ward. The 2 AMG GT4s absolutely together, unless that was Brent battling further down with Vin Barletta. But I did see a very squirrely moment for one of the Murillo Racing GT4 AMGs at turn 5. Might have even gone on the grass. And now also a couple of battles for the best of the McLarens as well, or the second best of the McLarens, as Sheena Monk was looking at the back of Tony Gables in the Black Dog Speed Shop. So Sheena's made up a couple of positions in the two McLarens. That is 9th and 10th position, and Pat Gallagher definitely being closed down now, Jeremy, by Dylan McIvern in second place.
Yes, he is, isn't he? And Dylan's, I think, doing a better job of looking after his tyres at this stage, perhaps. Won the championship, of course, with with the RS1 team, wasn't it, back in 2017, along with Spencer Pumpelly, and he's now chasing down the RS1. It's now an Aston Martin, of course, with Patrick Gallagher at the wheel of it, and edging away from Russell Ward. Alain Brignon is falling back quite rapidly now, better part of 2 seconds a lap from this pair. Interesting, isn't it, that the Patrick Gallagher car, the Notlad car, it's a different car they're running this weekend, because we've had the Frankenstrat liveried car, I think we had through the last couple of races, but this time it's the orange and black Aston Martin that is leading this race at the moment. And Ryan Hardwick continues to slip back the order now outside the top dozen. He's in 14th position now in a car that started on the second row of the grid. So Ryan really struggling in these conditions.
Yeah, I think.
John?
Go ahead, Jim.
I think Ryan Hardwick's been off the track. His right side mirror is pushed in, and there is damage to the right rear of that 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche Cayman.
I'd go with that. He's had a spin down at the kink and hit the concrete wall on the right-hand side of the car. Almost got away with it there, but you really have to be very lucky. Right in front of the two McLarens, actually, that were battling at the bottom end of the top 10. So that's why he's dropped back to 14th position. But my goodness, that could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. There's damage to the right front and right side, and actually to the right rear as well. But is it? I think it's just bodywork damage. He's lost the rear light cluster on the 718 as well. And
a spin there, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, things starting to get a little bit interesting as the conditions continue. Bizarrely, things getting difficult because the conditions are improving, Jeremy, because the rain tyres, which have now been on for what, nearly 40 minutes, they are having to battling. Puncture. Left front tyre is deflated on the Copeland Motorsports number 51. Now that car was running well up in the TCRs, and we've also had an off for that's the 51 Copeland Hyundai Veloster, by the way. We've also had a bit of an incident for the 88, apparently. That car for the Honda Civic. That's the Victor Gonzalez car. That car's been off and back on again. And this is going to be a long way back for that Copeland Motorsport Hyundai Veloster. That number 51 car then, with a right front problem and being coaxed home by AJ Muss, the man from New Jersey.
Yeah, the Olympic snowboarder.
Oh, big slide by the leader, Jeremy. He's really struggling for grip at turn 3 and barely kept the car on the track there. The Aston Martin now in the hands of Pat Gallagher is running out of particularly rear grip on that car. Now, rear grip off the corner is bad enough, but braking is also an issue, and that's where Gallagher's having a problem at the moment. Once he gets the car moving, it's still fast in a straight line, but getting it slowed down and getting it off the corners, Jeremy, a real issue at the moment for that reddy orange Aston that leads, and the top 3 are together at turn 5.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is that Patrick Gallagher's been super consistent in terms of his lap times. It's actually the other two that are closing in on him here. Both Dylan McAvoy in second place and Russell Ward, who's quickest of all, just set the fastest lap of the race, in actual fact, on this lap in car number 4 in third position. So he's running, they're running really, really well. And Patrick Gallagher, he's just, he's looking after his tyres as best he can. And I think just making sure he doesn't push too hard at this stage. So super consistent. Each of his last 4 lap times been within a couple of tenths of a second. So like I say, just the others are closing in on him. Way back though in 5th position, Bryce Ward. What a job he is doing. Russell's father is now next on the road in 4th position in car number 57. He started 9th, he fell to 10th at the restart, but has moved his way forward superbly since then. He's just got past Alan Brynjolfsson as well to run now in the 4th position. Hats off to Bryce Ward.
Yeah, Bryce really been enjoying his driving. Keep saying that he has thinks it's about time for him to give up, as the Copeland Veloster has now lost the tyre carcass, but he's done probably 3 miles with that deflated, so he's on the rim now, coming through Canada Corner, starting to do damage to the bodywork as well. AJ Muss trying to get that car home, needs to get it onto the left-hand side of the track and get it into the pit lane entry. The carcass off the racing line, but on the curb at Canada Corner. And the bodywork's coming apart. There's all kinds of tyre debris flapping around and just demolishing the inside of the front wheel arch and fender. He's got it to pit lane now as he comes in with, what, 20 minutes gone, Shea Adam. That means that we are in the driver change window.
Minimum drive time has been met, which means at least for AJ Muss, he can get out of the car and hand over the number 51 to Mason Filippi, a TCR expert of sorts, 2nd in the championship in 2019 and 3rd in 2020, as Ryan Hardwick has come to a stop out on the circuit as well. This has not been a good day for Wright Motorsports.
Really hasn't. The GT4 Club Sport 718 has ground to a halt. He's off the major part of the racing circuit, and that I think is down at Canada Corner as well. So debris at turn 12 and a car at turn 12, and the leaders are just coming out of the carousel. Looks like Pat Gallagher's found a second lease of life, Jeremy, in those Michelin rain tyres, as he's re-established almost a second's lead. In fact, maybe a little bit more than that as he comes to the kink. The BMW in second, the Turner Motorsport car, and Russell Ward then in 3rd place, and then that big gap back to Bryce, who's fought his way past Jeff Mosey and established a 2-second gap there down to Canada Corner, the leaders. This is where, well, there's a stationary yellow flag there at the moment, and the bright blue right car off to driver's left on the entrance there. There was electrical power. I could see on the dashboard that Ryan was trying to recycle the car. Quite a sophisticated dashboard and steering wheel set up on the 718 GT4 Club Sport. Now he gets the lights back on again. As we have got some cars coming into the pits, including, Shea Adam, the top 3. We've already had 1 or 2 pit callers as well. Ted Giovannis has been in and out. One of the Riley GT4 Supras as well. And in fact, the top 4 are in the pits, and that is driver time completed, isn't it?
It is, and actually now it's the top 7 as they continue to make their way around the course and dive into the pit lane, very cognizant of the fact that there is a car stopped out on the circuit, and that might bring out a full course caution. So Patrick Gallagher is in the Not Lad Aston Martin. He's in the pit lane, most likely handing over, yes he is, to Stephen McAleer. Dylan McAvert in the 95 Turner Motorsport BMW will be staying and probably watching the rest of the race from the pit box, as it is time for Bill Oberlin to go out and try and extend this championship lead. They came into the race tied on points with Halen. Looks like they're going to be able to leave with a bit of a gap.
What tyres are going on? That's the question. Is it more wets, or are we going to slick, dry weather tyres?
No, more wets. There is a lot more rain coming in this forecast. Nobody's taking that chance as of yet. Staying out on the track, interestingly, is Michael McCann in the McCann Racing Audi. He will be handing over to Andrew Davis, and with these weather conditions, I would want Andrew Davis in my car as soon as possible. But an excellent stop by Windward Racing means Indy Donchi takes back out the number 4 ahead of Bill Oberlin, who got out ahead of Stephen McAleer.
And also the TCR leader in the pit lane as well, the number 9. No, check that. He's just done a fastest lap. He stayed out 2:37.0 for Ryan Norman, up to 14th position. So very interesting. Big change around at the top of the field. The McCann Racing Audi stayed out. That's the number 8 car. In comes the 96 Finn Barletta. Shea Adam is watching this one.
Robbie Foley taking over, so both Foley and Oberlin out on track, and full course caution is out. The yellow is out, which means that the pits are closed. If you made it in, you're good to go. If you didn't, well, you missed your opportunity. We've also got, of note, Scott Andrews was the driver who took over that Riley Motorsports Toyota that you talked about, having seen it leave the pit lane a long way down. This caution is going to help punch him right back up. And Hugh Plum handed over to Matt Plum. So Plum brother switch off is done. And also, in these kind of weather conditions, that famous race back in 2019, it was Kuno Whitmer leading at the line. Kuno Whitmer is now behind the wheel of a McLaren, and I guarantee you his finger will be nowhere near the radio button for the entirety of this stint.
I did see a number of cars going out there, Shea, without the rain lights on the back, so there may have been one or two teams that have rolled the dice here. It has been drying up. It still looks pretty sketchy to me, but it might be worth having a chat with some of the teams and see if anyone fesses up to putting some dry weather tyres on. TCR stops are now starting. Now, you would have had to got in before the safety car was called with the pits being closed just a few moments ago. One of the Atlanta Speedworks cars has come into the pit lane, Shea.
That's the number 90.
Yeah,
that's the number 94, the one that we knew that would be coming in as close to this pit window as possible. Because Scott Smithson, driving with broken ribs, has actually been trying to get out of the car since about the start of the race. Ryan Eversley now in it, but the car was having some issues. They were trying to struggle getting the driver's door net back up. That's a safety regulation that has to be in place. The crew did manage to get it done. The car already at the back of the TCR field. Watch it, because Ryan Eversley will not let it stay there for long.
Yeah, just trying to see where that car came into the pits. Can't see it in after.
P11, I think.
Yeah, I can't see it coming in after the full course yellow was called, so I think they must have got in just beforehand. Race control giving everybody, Jeremy, there a fair crack with the Ryan Hardwick car parked at turn 12. Stationary yellows, everybody saw it. Opportunity to pit if they wanted to. I reckon it's the McCann Racing Audi that's going to be leading from Black Dog Speed Shop and the McLaren. Then Brent Mosing for Murillo Racing in the 65. Then Indy Johnchi, the first of the cars that's pitted for Winward Racing. I reckon that's your top four at the moment. The leader in TCR, Ryan Norman, is fifth, but that will cycle through. That car has not yet stopped, but we are under our second safety car of the Road America 120. Cracking stop, Jeremy, by Winward Racing.
Yeah, certainly. They got out ahead, you're right, of the Turner Motorsport BMW. So yeah, it was a very interesting pit stop sequence there. The car that was the biggest loser out of that one was certainly the Not Lad Racing Aston Martin, Stephen McAleer, losing a couple of positions there to Indy Johnchi and Bill Oberlin.
So pit stops for those who wanted to swap their drivers as quickly as possible, and they got it done just before the full course caution came out. That was at 40 minutes that they came in. There will be no pass around, says race control, so that they are confident that everybody is near enough in the right position. Full course yellow coming out, as I say, just after the 40 minutes, 10 seconds after the 40 minutes had passed up. So literally those guys getting into the pit lane for their pit stops right on the numbers. So very well done to them. Pits are now open for anybody in GS who hasn't stopped. And I wonder if the McCann Racing car will just stay out here, Jeremy. They've got track position now. Not sure for how long they can hold on to it with the marauding hordes behind them. But they've played the game.
They have, yeah, you're right. The top three have not pitted, and a bit of a gamble for them certainly at this stage, because having not made a pit stop, we're given track position at the moment, but I'd be surprised if he didn't come in during his full course caution. And particularly a shame for Michael McCann, who was running there in the 8th position before this full course caution, was now in the lead. But if assuming he makes the pit stop when the pits are open, which should be next time around, he'll go all the way to the back of the pack of those that have already made a pit stop. And certainly for TCR, I'm not so sure when that caution came out relative to where the leaders were in TCR, because most of the leaders in TCR did not come in during that yellow, but certainly the Alfa Romeo team did, as did Ryan Evans to take over from Scott Smithson. Their time was up. That was perfect timing for them. And Tyler Maxson, who's ahead of both of those two on the road right now, he also has stopped, having taken over from Tyler Gonzalez for Copeland Motorsports. And I would think that they are going to be the leaders, assuming, which I think they will, everybody else will make a pit stop now in TCR when the pits are opened.
Ryan Norman set the best lap in TCR, so therefore went across the line at 19 minutes and 4 seconds past the hour, and the full course yellow came out at 19 minutes and 50 seconds, so he'd passed the pit lane entry. So you're right, Jeremy, spot on there. The leaders were past the pit lane, well past the pit lane commit. They were 40 seconds into the lap, if you will, before that came out, as in comes the leader. As Jeremy suggested, it's going to be a big loss for that car that was well inside the top 10. Shea Adam watches the number 8 Audi come to a halt for its pit stop for McCann Racing.
A big loss for that car, but if there's a driver that can drag it back up to the front, it would certainly be Andrew Davis as a candidate to get that done. 4 tires going onto this car, and the ones that came off don't have a whole heck of a lot of tread left on them. I think there might be gambling. I think there might be slicks going on to that Audi. Also into the pit lane, Tony Gaples in the 34 Black Dog Speed Shop McLaren. He'll be handing over to Michael Cooper. Keep an eye on that car. Very quick running at Watkins Glen. In the long race, sharing the car with Spencer Pompelli, it was a mechanical issue that brought that car to an early finish, but they'll be fast here at Road America.
Nice bit of driving by the safety car driver, by the way, to ensure they didn't hold up the Atlanta Speedworks car, which was coming out of the pit lane whilst it was stationed at the exit of the pit lane waiting for the race leader. Actually pulled onto the grass, put 2 right-hand tyres onto the grass to allow the Atlanta Speedworks Honda to go through. So he wasn't disadvantaged because they had got in. Ryan has taken over that car and now begins the drive back. So Indy Donchi is leading the motor race. Second on the road, Ryan Norman for the Hyundai Elantra. Number 4, Winward AMG GT4. Number 98, the Brian Herder Autosport Hyundai Elantra. And everybody else line astern.
Expect to see the other TCR leaders come in this time around, John. It's open first time around for the GS cars, second time around for the TCRs. I would expect Ryan Norman to lead the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars, I reckon, that have not yet stopped in TCR.
So that then is going to leave is that going to leave? That's never going to leave Tyler Maxson in the Copeland Motorsports 27 in the lead. It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Because there were 3 cars that came in towards the tail of the field in TCR. The Tylers, Gonzalez to hand over to Maxson, Tim Lewis to take over from Ryan Block, who driven the first stint in the Alpha, and also Ryan Eversley with Scott Smithson. Shea talked about that earlier on. Scott Smithson still struggling from the effects of that crash he had at Lime Rock, so he going to get out of the earliest opportunity. The timing was perfect for them, could not have been any better. So I think it's going to be 27, 5 and 94 who will take over the lead when the others come into the pits. And yeah, it certainly looks pretty dry out there. I see no harm at all in coming in and putting on a set of slicks at this stage. Perhaps it's obviously you've got from this far away, obviously. But if it isn't that wet, get out there now, under the safety car, find out how wet it is. If you need to come back in again before we go back to green, at least it's nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Well, if you're at the back of the GS field at the moment, snapping a set of...
which those cars, of course, which those cars have just done, having stayed out before. They're just coming now, those top three, number 8, 34 and 65. They're going to be at the back of the pack in any case. So, see what it's like out there.
Still a little bit of spray paint thrown up. Let's take an update from Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Let's start with Wright Motorsports, Shea.
It looks like it was some sort of an electrical gremlin that ultimately got to the Wright Motorsport Porsche. It just lost power, and they were trying to get Ryan Hardwick to ease the car back around the track to bring it back into the pit lane, but that car is now done for the day.
And as far as the pit lane cycle was concerned, you've been interrogating some of the numbers for how long some of those cars that came in were on the pit lane.
Well, I can tell you that the car leading them down the pit lane, the number 84, is going to go onto slicks. The Atlanta Speedworks Honda, they are doing a driver change. Brian Henderson started, and it will be Robert Noaker taking over. They have decided that they're going to go to slicks, and of course they make that decision and text me, and then it starts raining even harder, so that never fails. But Ryan Norman into the pit lane as well. He missed one of the last rounds because he was making his IndyCar debut. That was the second race of Watkins Glen. Ryan back in this car. The 2020 TCR champion, handing over to Parker Chase, his teammate, who's third in points coming into the race today. They have taken off the left side tires, front and back, which makes me think that they are going to slicks as well, because normally in TCR, you only change the fronts if you're going to be doing a normal pit stop. Harry Gottsacker is in the pit lane in the 33. He'll be handing over to Mark Wilkins. Hyundai love there. Gavin Ernstone in his Audi. Fabulous job so far done for Gavin, as it's been a rough start to the weekend for the Road Shagger Racing Audi. It will be John Morley taking over, and Van der Stur with their Hyundai also into the pit lane for the 19. It looks like the driver change is done there. Denny Dupont has climbed aboard. We'll see if they go to wets or slicks, but a lot of people going to slicks now are going to be regretting it because the green blob is moving back over the racetrack.
And Atlanta Speedworks 84 that came in first has gone out in 5th in that line. So whatever they did, it took a bit longer than the cars ahead of them, whether they needed extra fuel or whether they changed more tyres, not sure. But it's two Hyundais who've got out at the head of that group of cars that made their pit stops in TCR, coming down to just on an hour and 3 minutes. And that's actually worked quite well, Jeremy, for those guys, because they might be able to eke it out to the end. So the ground that they've lost on the guys that stopped at 40 minutes, they could well get back by going all the way to the end from here.
TCRs, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. You should be able to get to the end from here, I think. And but the other cars were only in a couple of laps ago. This is going to be, another. At least I think probably 2 laps, isn't it, before we go back to green. I don't think we're going to go green this time around. We'll need to pack up the field that have already made a stop. More sprinkles of rain, certainly more than sprinkles, isn't it? It's going to be really tricky out there for those that put on slick tyres, but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I think if I'm in a TCR, I'd rather have a go in a front-wheel drive car than a rear-wheel drive car.
Absolutely.
Jeremy. Yeah.
Completely agree with you. Yes, because it's the front wheels are going to pull you out of any problems here. If you get on the gas, even if you're on slick tyres, I mean, you're certainly going to get heat into those tyres fairly quickly. Yep. But as soon as we get any significant rain, then they are going to have to come in for wet weather tyres. If it's just sort of damp with a front-wheel drive car, you might get away with it.
And we saw how quickly the GS cars at the front of the field started to pull that drying line up around the 4.01 miles. GS class split is going on at the moment, so if you're trackside or further afield and watching some overtaking under the waved yellows and behind the safety car. That is to put the faster cars back to the front of the field and try and make it a slightly cleaner start. It will be Indy Donchi for Windward Racing, who comes back to green. Looks like we're going back to green this time around, so sharp work by race control if that is the case. There's still a bit of rain on the windscreen of the cars at the front of the field, and we do indeed go back to green flag racing. Indy Donchi just has the intermittent wipe on the AMG, and he's jumped down to turn one immediately by Bill Oberlin. Bill Power round the outside and clears off into the distance. Bill clearly feels confident in the tyres that he's got on. Down the inside, here comes the Aston Martin, and Stephen McAleer goes through into second. Indy Donchi taking a wee bit of time to get back up to speed. Got his team car, Alec Udell, right behind him now. So the two Windward cars, third and fourth, after the father and son Ward team had a brilliant opening stanza of this race. Spot on the hour to go mark, and there's a slide off at turn 5. It's the 56 Murillo Racing Mercedes AMG. Eric Voss from 6th position, spinning out, and now he's got to try and restart the engine and get back into line, which he's having to wait as John Morley, Roadshagger Racing, came back into the pit lane as well there. Looked like he might have just caught the, Eric just caught the painted curb on the right hand side as he was braking, trying to avoid the line of traffic. Little bit over ambitious there, Jeremy, I think, by Eric.
Yeah, nice try. Of course, that's the car that won last time out. A great strategy they had at Limemont Park. Came away with the win, so he's got a bit more work to do right now.
Not sure why John Morley came back in the Roadshagger car. Shea is on that at the moment.
Did he try to go on to try with the tyre?
Well, yeah, you might be right, Jeremy. Eric Voss trying to make up some of the ground. He's got the whole TCR field pretty much to get around. Went round the outside of one of the Atlanta Speedworks Hondas. It's the 94 car that he went round the outside of. Ryan Eversley, that's second place in TCR, and he did that round the outside. He's off the track again, drops his rear left Michelin onto the dirt as he goes past the leader, Tim Lewis, in the another one of the TCR cars, as he came out of the exit of the kink, carving his way through the field. Big mix-up in the TCR positions on the track with those pit stops, and leading at the moment is the KFWA Motorsports machine. That's the number 5. It's the one we don't talk about, so I'll say nothing other than Tim Lewis is leading at the moment by 7.2 seconds. Back to Ryan Eversley in second, Parker Chase in third, and the first of the Elantras, Mark Wilkins, line astern to his teammate. So, what's happened to Ryan Eversley there? He's disappeared from the timing screen.
He's fallen a long way down.
He must have had an incident.
Yeah, he must have had an off somewhere, I think.
Well, that's the 94 car, and so that was at the start of the lap, but I saw him being passed by the recovering Eric Voss, and there was a lot of TCR cars ahead of him, and the timing screen hadn't updated, of course, because we hadn't gone back across the line. That looks like there might be something not fastened. Is the left rear wheel fastened properly? That car's moving around, but there's certainly something not right with that car. JDC, the 17 car, coming up behind it. Let's keep an eye on that, because he started that lap in second position, and he's dropped way down now. 6th, and here comes Mikey Taylor in the Unitronic JDC car. Maybe he's got... Did they go on to slick tyres? Is that what he's struggling with, Jeremy? And getting heat into them?
They did. They did go on to slicks. I did report that.
Right, okay, thank you. I thought that was the 84 car that we thought had gone on to slicks rather than the 94.
Both of them.
Okay, both of them. Right, okay. So there's the answer. Thank you, Shay.
Yep, I'm just going to see what the weather does. The slick tyres working very well there. Around the outside of the carousel goes Eric Voss there to overtake the leader in TCR, that number 5 of Tim Lewis Jr. Tyler Maxson hanging there in second place. Parker Chase in third, and Mark Wilkins is Brian Autosport teammate in fourth position as well. We've got a 4-car battle there for the lead in TCR, but Eric Foss just drove right around the outside of all of them. So he clearly has got some good heat in those tyres at the moment, but is there more rain coming?
Well, there's another rain front. It's about an hour away, and we've got about an hour of race to go. These things aren't exact sciences. I'm not sure that Murillo racing car put slicks on. I've got to be honest, the way he's carving back through the field. Tyler Maxson now right with the battle for the lead. First, second and third for TCR, running in 20th, 21st and 22nd position. Parker Chase is right in there as well. Mark Wilkins not too far back in the 2 eggshell blue Hyundai Elantras. Here comes the leader across the line, the pride of Milan. Crosses the stripe, 55 minutes to go for Tim Lewis Jr. 2:42.5 for him, 2:42.5 for 2:42.4 for Tyler Maxson. Then Parker Chase with a 2:42, so he's really good. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, in GS, turn 5, looks very slick down there again, particularly on that new laid tarmac, Jeremy, but Bill Oberlin, don't tell him that. He's built up a 2.5 lead.
Yeah, but the second place car was half a second quicker on that last lap, Stephen McAleer. So this is a fascinating contest at the moment. 54 minutes remaining in this race. Very tricky track conditions. These first two, they put a lot of ground in between themselves, and Indy Doncher, who took the restart in the lead, is now 5 seconds behind even the second place car of McAleer, as Bill Oberlin slides that car around the outside of the carousel. Clearly on wet weather tyres, they're keeping to the wetter part of the track there.
Yeah.
So this is a really fascinating contest.
Two of the best wet weather drivers in the paddock, first and second at the moment. Oberlin, and McAleer is just as handy. And as Jeremy said, staying off what we'd normally think of as the racing line, trying to find a little more wet on there, a little more dampness to cool the tyres down. Also trying to stay off the rubber that's been laid down. That'll be greasy now with the water lying on top. Sometimes called the karting rain line. Give yourself a couple of cars widths and effectively ride the berm where the grip is on the outside of the faster corners. Meantime, watching the Atlanta Speedworks number 94, and is Ryan Eversley getting up to speed in that car? We know that both of those cars have got dry weather tyres on, and they're circulating together in 7th and 8th position. It's about 6 seconds, Jeremy, between Eversley and Noack at 2:43 last time for Eversley. Check that, 2:49, so that isn't working at the moment. And Shea, Adam, you have news from Atlanta Speedworks.
They tried it, they took a risk, they took a gamble, it didn't pay off. There's nothing wrong with either car, they just have no grip, so they are both going to be pitting for rains this time around, which should be a slow stop for both cars.
They shouldn't need more than maybe a splash of fuel, possibly no fuel at all to get them to the end, so it will be a 4-tyre stop then with 52.5 minutes to go. Cruel luck, Jeremy, but you've got to give them a few brownie points for trying to do something different. You do the same as everybody else, you'll get the same result.
Yeah, and I'm just watching the times of Eric Foss. If he is on dry weather tyres, he's turning some. Last time around was a 2 minutes 36, which was quicker than the cars ahead of him, and really only the top 2 cars were quicker than that. So this is, we shall see the next few laps. It's always going to take a few laps to build some heat into the tyres, particularly with a damp track as well. So this is very, very interesting at this stage.
Well, Jeremy was talking there under the spin at turn 5, the McLaren, dark grey McLaren going around there. No harm, no foul, and has continued. Another spin for Trenton Estep this time. Michelin moment of the race. Don't forget, we've got to think about that later on as well. S-Step in the number 18 CP Racing AMG GT4. That's the Kermit green and blue car, and that was coming through turn 7. Something dangling off the back of that car as well. So has there been a little bit of contact, or did he just pick something up? Goes round the carousel and continues bouncing across the curb. Will not have helped. Oh, mayhem behind him as people had to avoid, and fabulous driving because he was right, Jeremy, in the middle of a pack there. And what was that? 3 full rotations, maybe 4?
I think so, yeah, that was remarkable. Literally spinning like a top there was the Trenton S-Step. He didn't hit anything and nobody hit him, which is even more remarkable. And away he goes.
Yeah, it was a clod of earth, actually, that fell off the back of that. I thought it was something hanging by a bit of electrical wire, but it was just a clod of earth that dropped off. I'm hearing that was a 4.1 difficulty there, and the Russian Olympic Committee judge has given him 8.5 for it, so that's really impressive. Well, to hang on to that.
Yeah. I tell you what, Alec Udell is really struggling at the wheel of that number 57 car. Well, no, excuse me. Alec Udell just passed his teammate.
Correct.
Indy Doncher is the guy who's really struggling in the number 4 car. The two teammates just exchanged positions. So Alec Udell now up into 3rd position ahead of Indy Doncher, and right with him is Spencer Piggott, who's doing a fine job at the restart in that Mia McLaren, up into 5th position, just ahead of Trent Hinman, Scott Andrews in the Toyota as well, right in that mix of cars.
Yeah, and from there on down, Jeremy, there's a lot of green on the timing screen, which means those guys, Spencer Piggott just put in his fastest lap of the race, Trent Hinman put his in not so long ago, as well as Scott Andrews, and also behind them Kuno Whitner and Robbie Foley also just put their fastest laps of the race in, as well as they're closing in on this gap. There's going to be a line of what, 6, 7, 8 cars all in behind the 2 Winward Racing AMG GT4s.
Yeah, and look at the time. Eric Foss, they just picked off a couple of cars last time. 2 minutes 37.2 for Eric Foss, number 56, Murillo Racing Mercedes, running in 16th position. He passed Michael Cooper on that lap, who clearly had an off, I think, somewhere. As Ryan Eversley gives up the struggle, he's going to change tyres on that number 94 Atlanta Speedworks. A Honda back onto wet weather tyres, but Eric Foss, using all of his experience here, 2:37, he's quicker than, well, yeah, most of, perhaps not quite the top 10, but not far off the pace of the top 10 runners. So, you know, if the conditions stay right now, it could come towards the favour of Eric Foss, but there is still 48 minutes remaining, so there's a long, long way to go. This is a real gamble by that team, and Eric Foss is just doing a brilliant job down in the 16th position. That's kind of 56.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that car is on slick tyres, Jeremy, the Voss car, because there's a bit more spray now, and the lines that he was taking, I wouldn't have said were conducive to somebody on slicks. I stand to be corrected, and I know that Shea's working on trying to get an answer from Murillo Racing, but it's raining quite heavily again now, and Bill Oberlin at the front of the field has the best view of anybody. Very few people without the windscreen wipers on now, unless they've got a clear track in front of him, and even then it's pretty dangerous out there without the windscreen wipers on. Starting to fall heavier. Shea, what do you got?
Yeah, it's pouring again, John. The entire back straight is awash in the big ploppy drops. I just got intel from the track saying it is raining hard everywhere. So coming back in and putting the rain tires on, definitely a good move for people up and down the pit lane. I haven't heard of anyone else who was on slicks, by the way. Every answer that I've gotten, people went back to the wet weather tires during their stops, 13 minutes ago.
By the way, the McLaren that went off a little while ago, which I described in great detail, I forgot to tell you which one it was. It was the Black Dog Speed Shop car, the number 34 car, and that has dropped that all the way down to 19th in GS. The rain has returned to Road America in the Road America 120 for the Michelin Pilot Challenge, live on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Jeremy Shaw, John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. It's getting down to a little bit of survival now. People in the middle of the track, they're not even taking racing lines. They're certainly not going anywhere near the white lights at the edge of the circuit, and they're not using the curbs. That's when you know things are getting a little more treacherous. 46 minutes on the nose, still to go, and here's how it stands. Bill Oberlin now has pulled out a 5-second lead as he has really knuckled down here. Stephen McAleer in second for the Aston Martin Vantage from Not Lad Racing in second position. 13.5 seconds now back to Indy Donchi, who is or was in third the last time they crossed the line, and I'm seeing Spencer Piggott scored in fourth position. I'll wait for that to update again. It looks like Alex Ugel has dropped down to fifth position, Jeremy.
Yeah, he lost a couple of positions on that last lap, did Alec. He had got up to third, but now fallen behind both number 4 and number 3. There's number 88 of Carl Whitmer taking a bit of a scenic route down at turn 5. He was towards the end of the field in TCR, so not really a threat at this stage.
Yeah, not the first, and I suspect not the last who'll run long at turn 5 today. Still plenty of racing to come tomorrow on Sunday. We'll have it all for you here on IMSA Radio as the two Windward cars are back together again at turn 1. Looks like the McLaren has gone through there, and Spencer Piggott, up into third and has cleared off and immediately has put in his fastest lap of the race, and that's quicker than Stephen McAleer. In fact, only Bill Oberlin is quicker than him last time around, and the gap between Spencer Piggott in third and Stephen McAleer in second is now just 11.8 seconds. So remember that, as the Windward cars are really struggling as the rain comes down here, Jeremy. Not sure what setup they've got on those cars, but they really have not come to life since the rain started falling again after the restart from that last safety car.
No, you're right, but Bill Oberlin, I mean, he's just in a class of his own right now. 2:33.6 last time around. The next best lap was a 2:35.2 by Spencer Piggott, 35.7 by Stephen McAleer, who's in second place. Everybody else running 37s, a couple of 36s perhaps, but Bill Oberlin once again, remember last year in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race at Charlotte on the Roval there, he was imperious in these sort of conditions. Same again here from Bill. Awesome drive by Bill Oberlin in the lead of this race.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Robbie Foley in the second of their cars in 9th position at the moment, 2:36 last time around, just underlining the class of Oberlin at the front. Form is temporary, class is permanent, is what they say in sports. Volt Racing with Archangel, Trent Hinman trying to pick his way through the two Windward cars as Bill Oberlin, with the rain lights on, really wet now on the front straight. A lot of spray. Bill relaxed, clicks off another lap, and that's another 2.5 minutes closer to the end of the race as far as he's concerned. He heads down into turn 1. He'll be putting a lap in a moment on a couple of cars ahead of him. Looks like the automatic Aston that's in front of him there, the number 99 car. Yeah, it is. And so that car about to fall a lap away from the lead in GS. Meantime, the battle for really third on down, with Spencer Piggott not now closing anymore on Stephen McAleer, but Indy Donchi somehow holding on to 4th position, but barely. Then has a line of cars, Jeremy, behind him, including the Toyota Supra of Scott Andrews. That car going very well indeed, the Gazoo Racing Riley Motorsports car. Scott Andrews in 5th position at the moment. in that white, red and black Supra.
Indeed so, and right on the tail now of Indy Doncia, as he was, they came across the line. There's the TCR car that pitted a while ago of Ryan Oversley back into the fray, but now I think better part of a lap down. Don't think he's a complete lap down to the leaders in TCR, so that's good news for him, but he's a long way back. And it is indeed Scott Andrews right on the tail then of Indy Doncia, who's back up into 4th place, so he's, or rather in 4th position, but he was, the rate he was dropping back just a few laps ago, it looked like Indy was going to fall even further back down the field. But Scott Andrews is giving him all he can handle as they head out of the carousel and toward the kink.
That's Jeremy Shaw in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre now. Will that 84 Atlanta Speedworks TCR car make an opportunity for a pass then for the guys who are chasing Robert Norgate behind the wheel? He stayed out of the way of that battling GS horde down to Canada corner. Indy Doncia, and that AMG looks really, really difficult to drive. It's a total handful at the moment, having been so good earlier on when the father and son, Bryce and Russell Ward's team, were driving those two cars, the 4 and the 57. Bryce was brilliant at the start of the race, and there's an off at turn number 14 and a spin. I was just wondering if they might get away with that for the AWA McLaren. Kuno Whitmer just put 2 Michelins off the edge of the track, and at the entrance to turn 14, the final right-handed corner at the edge of the track means you're on grass. No grip at all for the Michelin rain tyres. He's regained the hard standing and sets off up the hill, but that's a huge amount of real estate that he's just lost there, and will drop way down the standings.
And he took the restart, John, in 13th position, did car number 13. He was up into 7th before that spin, but as you said, that cost him a lot of ground.
16th.
Who knows, now got to do that work all over again.
Yeah, 16th position, and I reckon about 20 seconds there, Jeremy, that cost him. He'll be annoyed with himself there. Small margins, just putting his wheels onto the grass, but they were the loaded wheels. Those were the wheels that were taking the strain of the car, and at that point there was very little grip on the grass, and that was how the spin started. I thought he was going to get away with just running wide there, but the mid-engine car, the polar moment of inertia overtook him and spun him further into the grass. Still looking fairly bleak down at turn 5, and still Indy Doncia 4th position, but only just. Here comes the Supra down the inside, then the outside, trying left and right through the carousel. There's really only one line through there, even in the wet. You can't go side by side through there, possibly especially in the wet, I should have said. Then it's the Aston Martin from Volt Racing with Archangel, and Trent Hinman wants a little bit of this as well as they go through the kink. And Doncia is really struggling for rear grip through the kink. He had to lift off there considerably, and the back end of the car was dancing around, and that's given Scott Andrews in the Riley Motorsports Supra a real opportunity. And the touch coming down into Canada corner, and the Supra's going to go straight on there. Just completely out of control, the pair of them, as that touch then unsettled the cars. I think there may be steering damage on the Supra, and that's rotten luck for Scott Andrews. Doncia somehow still holding on to 4th position, and now it'll be Trent Hinman who tries to battle through and take the position. It's still Bill Oberlin leading. His gap back to 2nd is 6.3 seconds. Doncia picked the inside line. Oh, he moved a little bit there in the braking area, Jeremy. Not a lot, but it was enough to squeeze the Supra on the left-hand side, the outside of the track. Stewards will look at that one, I'm sure.
Andrews is in the pits.
Thank you, Shay. So there was damage to that car for Scott Andrews. Bit of disappointment there, Jeremy, for Riley Motorsports. That Supra GT4 having a really good showing here.
Indeed so. It was another fine run for that Riley Motorsports team, and yeah, we haven't yet quite seen the full extent of the competitiveness of that Toyota Supra, but there was a great run last time out in that car. It was driven, the sister car I should say, was driven last time around by the regular driver Alfredo Nadri, and joined by the young Argentinian/French ace Sacha Fenestraz. They had a great 5th place finish last time out at Lime Rock, but that was in the number 14 car. It's currently down in the 14th position, but there's certainly we're going to see a lot more of that Toyota in the races to come, and that was most unfortunate for Scott Andrews to be involved in that incident down at Canada Corner.
Yeah, a lot of excitement about GT racing from Toyota and from Lexus. Obviously, they've got the RCF in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and there's more product in the pipeline that would make good GT races, is what they are telling us. Watch this space. Unfinished business in the GT categories for Toyota Racing Development, who look after the Lexus and Toyota programs. Toyota Gazoo Racing, the overarching motorsports department of Toyota Motor Company. It's from the website that Akio Toyoda founded many years ago, which was actually years ahead of its time, selling cars on the internet with pictures. Who thought that would catch on? It was steering damage, by the way, on the front of that number 21 GR GT4 Supra, and that car, I'm afraid, has gone behind the wall. So that's where the Gazoo Racing name comes from, and we wait to hear what product they have for GT racing, and with a bit of luck and a fair wind, we might even see the Toyotas in the next few years with global prototype racing here in IMSA. Certainly something I know that the guys in Cologne in Germany are very interested in doing, bringing cars across with the convergence in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in the ACO categories. So Bill Oberlin driving around in elegant isolation at the moment, Jeremy, and he stretched his lead another 1.1 seconds since we last talked about it, 7 3/4 seconds.
Yeah, he did, and yeah, I mean, certainly the number 4, just looking at a replay of that incident between number 4 and the number 21, the number 21 car was nowhere near the left-hand side of the racetrack there, so I don't think you can really blame the number 4 car for moving, towards the middle of the road there. He was pretty much both of them were pretty much in the middle of the road in any case. And I think Scott Andrews was kind of pushing his luck to try and hold that car down on the entrance of the corner. He's trying to do so he can get a run coming out of the corner, but just a really unfortunate, there was nothing deliberate there by anybody. It was just one of those kind of unfortunate things where there was a little bit of contact between the two, and unfortunately this number 21 car has come off seriously the worse for wear for that. But I think there was plenty of room to the outside for Scott Andrews, so I don't really think he can complain too much at that little incident take place. I think just unfortunate would the way I would term it, at least. But what a drive again by Will Oberlin.
It is under review, by the way.
I'm sure it is, because there certainly was a little bit of movement there from the number 4 car, no question about it. And but great drives here, particularly from Bill Oberlin and Spencer Piggott, who's doing just a brilliant job in 3rd position, definitely the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack. Trent Hindman has now got himself ahead of Indy Dontje in the number 7 Aston Martin, the Volt Racing with Archangel car, now into 4th position ahead of Indy Dontje in the number 4 Winward Racing car. His teammate Alec Udell right behind them, then Robbie Foley. Chad McCumbee is having a good run in the PF Racing Ford Mustang, and then it's Eric Foss. You remember we talked about Eric Foss at the restart. Shea had been told, or been told the car was on wet weather tyres, on dry weather tyres, and he certainly slipped back at the restart, which kind of lent credence to that. But obviously I don't think he is on wets. He is on wet weather tyres, excuse me. He is on wets, not on slicks, and he's worked his way now up inside the top 10. Eric Foss in car number 56 ahead of his teammate and pulling away from his teammate Ken Murillo, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, I have to say,
In fact, Eric Voss on that last lap was the fastest car on track and quicker even than Bill Oberlin.
I have to say I was a bit sceptical about that, just from the lines he was taking.
Right.
He did make a mistake, but he could have been further up the field, Jeremy. Let's not forget the couple of off-track incidents that we saw, and some very lurid slides that we had from Eric early on, and he went straight on at turn 5, remember, when he clipped the curb. So he could have been much further up the field. It's a very good drive back from Eric Voss. Possible contender for the Michelin moment of the race. Not so much a moment, but a really good drive back. Keep an eye on that, definitely. We will have a Michelin moment of the race in each of the classes. Shay, go ahead.
Incident responsibility, car 4 with the 21 warning.
Yeah, all right. I see what's happened there. It was not 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, but 5 of one and half a dozen of the other. I think that's basically what's being said there.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I mean,
yeah, me too.
If those two were right up against the left-hand side of the racetrack, then it would almost certainly have been a penalty. But the fact they were so far across towards the middle of the road there, leaving the whole normal entry line into the corner completely open, I think that's where the kind of fudge factor was there, and that was why he's just getting a warning rather than a penalty. I think, from my perspective, a very good call once again from race control. Well considered.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, we don't get to see the workings out in the margins, but I think we can kind of work that one through ourselves. Tim Lewis leads. Tim Lewis Jr. leads in TCR by about a second to Parker Chase in the first of 2 Brian Herder Autosport Hyundai Elantras, which are followed by 2 Hyundai Veloster NTCRs, first for Van der Steur Racing and Copeland Motorsports. And those, 5 cars separated by about 9 seconds at the moment, call it 10 seconds. And the battle at the front of the field just starting to heat up to very different lines through the carousel. Tim taking the more regular line and round the outside. That's a super move by Parker Chase. He rides the berm and goes through. Now that was interesting, Jeremy. Very interesting indeed. Almost seemed as though Tim Lewis Jr. gave up that position. I'm sure it wasn't that case, but it's now very wet at that part of the track. But he was certainly on the inside line and didn't seem to fight too much when Parker Chase went round the left-hand side, the outside of the carousel, side by side through the exit of the carousel. You don't see that very often.
No, did he perhaps take a bit too much out of the tyres in the early part of this stint there in that number 5 Alfa Romeo, because the number 98 Hyundai Elantra of Parker Chase had been closing in pretty steadily over the last few laps. After the restart, Tim Lewis Jr. pulled out a pretty handy lead of as much as 4 or 5 seconds, but that's been gradually whittled away.
Stage, yeah.
Yeah, and it's gradually been whittled down, and now up into the lead then goes Parker Chase, the complete lap 31.
Half an hour to go, just under that, 28 minutes. Bill Oberlin has his lead into double figures now, 10.5 seconds. Turner Motorsport on a rich vein of form at the moment. Tim Lewis Jr. having to fight a rear guard action to hold on to second position. He's got no grip. You're spot on, Jeremy. He's got no grip in the braking area for turn 3. He can hardly keep the car straight. It is getting wetter out there. But Mark Wilkins, hugely experienced driver, had to check up and almost drive off the track to avoid the back of the second place number 5 car. He comes again down towards turn 5, and it just looks to me as though Tim is struggling getting into the corners, certainly getting out of them as well. And unless he's got some other mechanical problems, has he lost a gear maybe? Problem is, if you do lose a gear nowadays with sequential boxes, you've got to keep going up and down through it, and it's just going to get worse and worse. It's not as if you can shift around it as you used to be able to do in the H pattern box days. He's holding on to second for the moment with 26.5 minutes to go. IMSA Radio, IMSA TV together. 87.9 and 454 hour scanner frequency. 87.9 FM at the track. And around the world on RS2 IMSA Radio via imsaradio.com. Live video button there as well. And we'll be on XM202 for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race tomorrow, Sunday, here from America's National Park of Speed, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America.
To Alfa Romeo, a great run to second place last time out at Lime Rock. That was the team's best result so far. But he's under pressure now, increasing pressure from Mark Wilkins, the series champion for the Brian Herder Autosport team. And Tim Lewis Jr. having to defend that line into turn 14. Clearly, Mark Wilkins at this stage in the race is a lot quicker. And is number 5 car heading for the pit lane? No, he's not. But he's certainly keeping a very different line to Mark Wilkins in the Hyundai.
Once the car gets up to speed, Jeremy, it's terminal speed. The little Alpha at Giulietta.
Look how much wetter it is now too.
Yeah, it's very wet now. Very, very wet. I think your summation about the state of the tyres is spot on there. Got somebody moving slowly that shouldn't be. That's the Aston, isn't it? Yes, it is. Left rear issue. Tyre has gone down. That's the second place. Stephen McAleer, Not Lad Racing, RS1. All I could see was a set of headlights moving slowly in the spray. Even though that is a very brightly coloured car, that's how much worse it's getting. Now, he's got a couple of corners to go, about a third of a lap. But this is going to put Spencer Pickett into second position, I think, as he comes through. And he's got to get that car to the pit lane yet. Oh, cruel look, Jeremy Shaw, for Stephen McAleer.
It really is. I wondered the last couple of laps, he's just started to slip back a bit. A second on each of the last 3 laps that Patrick Gall had fallen back from Bill Oberlin. I wondered what was going on there.
Jeremy, an awful lot of drivers are dropping wheels over the edge of exit curbs, and that's not great, but it's coming back on again, where that is getting dug away, and as you come back on, the inside shoulder of the tyre takes a heck of a battering.
Yeah, it really does, and just most unfortunate. There's number 77 car, that's the championship leader in TCR. They've had a tremendous run this season, 4th in the first race, then a string of 4 podiums, win last time out for Michael Lewis and Taylor Hagler. And this pit stop is going to put them quite a long way down the order. They're already down in the 7th or 8th positions before 8th or 9th positions before this pit stop, and that's going to cost them more ground as well. It looks like fresh tyres there going on at number 77 car, and I think we're going to see.
I think we're going to see fresh tyres, Jeremy, because I think the rain now is heavy enough that anybody who's had tyres on for a while, they're not getting the best out of the tyres, to be quite honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shay, Adam?
I'd agree with that. They're doing the one rear tire,
really?
though, for Stephen McAleer, just the
I'd put
one
4
tire.
on.
But here's the interesting thing. They topped him off with fuel, so Stephen can run at full rich to the end of this race, whereas some of the other GS cars are a bit nervous on their fuel numbers.
Actually, that's a very good point, something I haven't even looked up, because I've been so engrossed in what's going on at the sharp end of the field that I haven't looked at the last time those leading cars were in. Bill Oberlin is on his 19th lap, Spencer Piggott on his 19th lap, Alec Udell on his 19th lap. In terms of time, with 3 yellow flag laps, 4 yellow flag laps at the start of it, that's nearly an hour for these guys. So 54 minutes since the GS field were in. So Jeremy, that does mean a splash before the end of the race. That might not be the end of the day and the end of the story as far as Stephen McAleer is concerned. Yes, he's lost some time because of the slow in lap there. He's basically lost about a minute, but he's now fueled to the end, and the fight back begins right now for the not lad Aston Martin.
It does, yeah. It certainly, because it didn't lose him a full minute, but better part of a minute. Probably, it was unfortunate for that team to have that problem. But I don't think he's going to be in contention to win now. But yeah, perhaps the top 10. But yeah, that puncture really unfortunate. But we've sort of seen during the weekend, and we've heard over the weekend that over the back of the curbs here, there's quite a drop off, particularly on the exit turn 3 there, a huge drop off. You get off that tarmac on the left hand side where the exit turn 3, there's a big drop off, there's a big sort of dip between the asphalt and the grass there. It's kind of dirt at this stage after the end of the curbing, and you get over that, it's very easy to pick up a puncture, and don't know what that's what happened or not. But we're seeing here now Trent Hinman now up into third position, but Alec Udell is putting the pressure again. I wonder whether these Windward cars, they were looking at fuel consumption.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe that's why they were taking their time earlier on, just really conserving fuel. Maybe they hope they can get to the end without needing another pit stop, where they can go a full hour. Certainly, in these conditions, you're not going to use anything like as much fuel as you would under full dry conditions. And it's not inconceivable that they were, just biding their time, taking care of the car as much as they can, try to use as little fuel as possible. And then there comes a time in the race where they think, okay, we can get to the end from here, pushing harder. Maybe that is the case for those two Windward cars currently running 4th and 5th.
Still 20 minutes to go. They've been out there for 55 minutes. Maybe just a splash, and they're counting on a shorter splash towards the end. But they have been playing a bit of a tag team, Jeremy. One leads, then the other leads, almost as if they're, wanting to give each other a tow and working as a team. Particularly when they were at the front of that queue, there was a bit of back and forth there. They're, as you say, still sitting in 4th and 5th position, with the problem for Stephen McAlee and the not lad Aston. The thing about dropping off those curbs that Jeremy was mentioning, and it is just mud and dirt at the edge of those curbs now, and that, by the way, is not any criticism of the circuit here. That's just the drivers churning it up across the line. Here is pass for position with Alec Udell going back past Trent Hinman there. So has he been given the hurry up now? This is very interesting indeed. Or are their cars coming back into a handling situation? No clue whatsoever what's going in here, but the relative performance of these two Windward cars, which started off, remember, some hour and 40 minutes ago, being very competitive, and Bryce Ward in particular charging up to what was then 4th position from the bottom end of the top 10 in a fantastic opening stint. Then they went really off the boil and the cars looked a real handful, but now all of a sudden Alec Udell has found some pace again. 2:37.0 last time around. He'll be quicker still this time. Leader 2:38. Bill Auberland just soft pedaling with a 13-second lead. Why wouldn't you? And I would just mention that the number 4 car, the Windward car number 4, has got the fastest GS lap of the race on a 2:32.407. Now, that was in considerably drier conditions, Jeremy, but there is pace in those Windward cars. We just haven't seen it in the middle part of the race. There's something going on there.
Yeah, fair comment, no question. And the Mercedes, they've really come back into the fray. There was a bounce performance change, I think it's before Lime Rock, and then there was some sort of funky conditions there that caused a bit of a shuffle around. The Mercedes came through to win that most recent race up in Connecticut, and that was the first win of the season for Mercedes, but some ties them actually on points in the manufacturers for 4th place with Chevrolet. So the Mercedes, I think IMSA's done a really good job of balancing these cars. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot to choose between any of them. Does the number 98 car off the road? That's the leader.
That's the leader.
The TCR is off the road at turn 3 exit.
That's how difficult it is going down that hill. So that will have lost Parker Chase the lead, I think. It's so difficult to identify the cars. Big shout out to everyone on the flag posts, marshals out there, and our camera operators who are working really hard in difficult conditions. Still 16 minutes of this race to go. And now Parker Chase has got to forget that. Very easy to let that get to you, and you try and make up. It goes one of two ways. You try and make it all up in the next 2 or 3 corners and make it worse, or it completely ruins your confidence in yourself and the car, and you start braking early and not taking enough speed through the middle of the corners. The wet can get you like that. A tiny little mistake, you get yourself into the rhythm, and then you make one mistake, and you really have to be mentally strong. Gap at the front of the field, 10 seconds now. So Spencer Piggott in the McLaren just dragging, well, he's dragged 5 seconds back on Bill Oberlin last time around. Was there a mistake from Bill Power last time around? 5 seconds gone in that lap, or is he just managing? He's been out there a very long time, remember. 21 laps completed, already an hour has been completed by Bill Oberlin, and normally we only see, what, 45, maybe 50 minutes, but this, as Jeremy Shaw said earlier on, is not a standard race. You're not using as much fuel. Another turn 5 incident, and once again it's the Black Dog Speed Shop McLaren, the 34 car, that's gone off, and it is Michael Cooper behind the wheel of that car. He worked his way back up to 15th. I don't think he's lost that position there, because the Riley Motorsports Supra was about 4 seconds behind. So TCR, then Tim Lewis Jr. with 3 seconds to the good now in the KMW Motorsports Alpha Giulietta. Shea Adam penalties for that last pit stop.
We've just had the 99 Automatic Racing Aston Martin into the pits. Michael Di Casado will need to make another trip back down the pit lane now. He left the box with pit equipment attached. That is a major no-no, and this is his debut in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, although he's raced quite a bit in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
Bill Oberlin, let's keep an eye on his lap times. That's better, got it back down to a 2:38 last time around.
Before on that pace, 1:38. It was just the previous lap, lap 36. It was the anomaly there, 2 minutes 40. So he lost 2 or 3 seconds, and it just happened to coincide with a great lap by Spencer Piggott. But again, conditions now are really tricky out there, and
survival now, Jeremy, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, it's remarkable how what sort of pace these guys are turning in these really tricky conditions. And look how bright all the lights look on the side of the racetrack as well, and the brake lights as Tim Lewis Jr. heads into the carousel.
Well, maybe Tim was just soft pedaling a little bit as well earlier on, but whatever it is, he's back in the lead of the race. He leads the TCR category. Remind my 2 co-commentators, Michelin moments of the race for each category, please. As Tim's been out there for about 3 laps longer than the chasing Hyundai Hordes. He's clocked up an hour already, 21 laps, although 4 of them yellow flag laps. Mark Wilkins on his 19th. Van der Ster Racing now up into 3rd, of course. Denis Dupont on his 19th lap. Parker Chase down to 4th position after that drop of the car off the circuit at turn 3. What, a lap and a half ago. He's on his 19th lap as well. My goodness, we still could be in for a grandstand finish here. 9.5 seconds at the front of the field, 6.5 between Spencer Piggott and the Motorsport in Action, the Mia McLaren, and Alec Udell with the AMG GT4 of Winward Racing finding a bit of pace again, at least not losing any pace anymore as it was earlier on. second and a half, call that 2 seconds now, back to Trent Hinman. And then Indy Donchi actually a little bit closer to Trent now than he has been for a wee while, just on a second. And then there's 7.5 seconds back to 6th place Robbie Foley. This is a real challenge out there now. Visibility will be an issue. The inside of the windscreen, you'll be hoping against hope that the inside of the car doesn't get too wet. And another spin for the CP Racing AMG number 18. And there was another car involved there. It looked like it might have been that's the TGM car. And then that looks like it's got a left rear puncture as well. Now, was that 2 incidents or just one? As the Mercedes tries to get back onto the track, is there damage to that car? As in for a splash of fuel. This is one of the GS cars, and this is Spencer Piggott. Shea Adam.
This is a long splash of fuel. He's been stationary for about 11, 12, 13, 14 seconds. So they gave him a lot of fuel to try and go out there for 10 more minutes. Also into the pit lane was the number 7, the Volt Racing with Archangel. That's Trent Hinman coming in. He's still in his box as well. Kuno Whitmer in the AWA McLaren. Kuno still in the top 4 of the championship. Will actually move up into the top 3 given the bad finish for Ryan Hardwick today. And Owen Trinkler in the 64 Team TGM Chevrolet also into the pit lane. I believe it was the sister car, the 46, that was involved in the contact that was being looked at turn 10.
Yeah, the aftermath only I saw there, but there was that was 2 separate incidents. It was 2 separate incidents, and that's a hard sideways hit into the wall by the TGM Camaro, the number 46, just beyond the kink. Pretty flat sideways hit, but that may have done suspension damage. Meantime, the Mercedes that had that spin, which looked to be on its own, that number, the 18, the blue and green car, an eventful race it has been for that machine. It has continued, and that car then does, as I said, just continue on the circuit, having Trent Nester and Mark Kavame driving the CP Motorsports Mercedes, and Trenton has got that car going again, having lost a wee bit of time. Had the car sideways across the road part way around the carousel, and rather sensibly, I think, pulled it onto the grass, took the spin rather than just sitting there. Now at the front of the field, Bill Oberlin is still out front. His gap now, of course, up to 15 seconds because it's the 2 Winward Racing cars. And Jeremy, you said quite some time ago, I wonder if the Winward guys are playing the fuel game. We're 8.5 minutes to go, and we really didn't think that these guys could do something in the region of an hour and 15, nearly an hour and 20 minutes. But in these conditions, maybe that was on, and maybe that's what they were thinking after the restart, and they could be coming in to a 2nd and 3rd place finish. But cars around them have started to pit, Jeremy, so the dice has certainly been rolled at the front of the field.
It certainly has.
I love it.
It's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely superb. I mean, Bill Oberlin, there's no one more experienced in these sort of conditions than Bill Oberlin, so he knows how to keep the pace up, try and save the fuel. As you say, you're not using full throttle nearly as much in these conditions as you would in a dry, and he's just soft pedaling as much as he possibly can to try and use as little fuel as possible. It's still going to be tight, I'm sure, but we've seen already this season in several occasions that we've seen some remarkable fuel economy turned by some of the drivers.
I give you Rebel Rock Racing at Sebring and the exceptionally soft-footed Robert Liddell in that last stint, which was pretty much, I think it was an hour and 3 minutes for each of the drivers, or an hour and 2 minutes for each of the drivers by the time they got to the line. And then we thought that was pretty good at Sebring, but this is exceptional, Jeremy, to go somewhere near to an hour and 15. Tiny little bit of yellow flag help, but obviously not using the revs, not using the full throttle application. And this has been a masterclass by all of these drivers at the front of the field. If they get home, it's going to be hard to pick our GS Michelin moment of the race, and TCR no less difficult. Share 6.5 to go. What do you reckon? Where are your thoughts going for the Michelin moments of the race?
TCR, it goes to the car that's currently leading. I'm not going to say what it is, what color it is, anything that goes along with that, because I'm not going to jinx it. But they got their first ever podium the last race out. It looked like it was going to be another Hyundai coming home for a victory. Mark Wilkins is 3.4 seconds back, and the Canadian is the biggest threat to the car leading TCR, but it looks like they might just hold on and take their first ever win.
Jeremy, what about GS? Hard to look past what Bill Oberlin's done at the front of the field. But what about that first stint by Bryce Ward and the very quick pit work on both of the cars by the Winward guys to get them out ahead of that whole stream of cars that came in? They've had a plan. They've definitely had a plan this race, Winward Racing, and you know, when things are all chaotic, that's when you've got to deliver, isn't it?
Yeah, but Bill Oberlin is 14.5 seconds ahead of them. So if they all reach the finish, you've got to give it to Turner Motorsport. Tell you what, who's done a fantastic job in this race also is PF Racing.
Yeah,
the company is up into 4th position in car number 40.
From nowhere.
From absolutely nowhere. He's been just steadily moving in here. And taking advantage of those cars just recently making a pit stop, number 3, 7. So he's moved ahead of those two, but he's also got past Robbie Foley just recently as well, and he's left Robbie Foley far behind. So if he can reach the finish, I think it'll be a remarkable effort for that PF Racing Mustang team.
All of the guys who are fuel saving in the 39s and 40s. And Chad McCumbee, 37.3 last time around. He's only 2.5 seconds away from a podium place at the moment as Eric Voss is in the pit lane, Shea Adam. That'll just be a splash of fuel.
That's exactly what it was. Long enough to get enough fuel to the end of the race. And also into the pit lane, the number 60 Capstone Mercedes. So we are seeing 2 Mercedes pitting on the same lap. Meanwhile, the 2 cars running in 2nd and 3rd, they're Mercedes, and they did very short pit stops when they came in for their GS stops. Wonder how long ago those fuel lights came on.
They've been out there for 25 laps. All of the top runners have been out there. My goodness me, we said this is not the place when we were just getting ready to go green. This is not the place that you want to miscalculate your fuel numbers, Jeremy. You cannot coast to the line here. It's just not possible, even without the big hill to the start-finish line. It's all uphill from Canada Corner to turn 14 as well. Get it wrong here, it's going to cost. It's really going to cost.
Yeah, and Bill Oberlin is a magician, but if he's out of fuel, he's not going to be able to coast uphill to the finish line, is he? Absolutely right. But boy, this is getting close now. We're inside 4 minutes to go as the Alpha goes across the line in the 19th position overall now. He's got 2.5 seconds ahead of Mark Wilkins. The Alpha team, certainly, they were helped by the fact they were coming in to make a pit stop right before that caution period came out any case. But it's been a brilliant drive once again for this team. They finished 2nd last time out and now running in the lead. There's goes Bill Oberlin, so 3:23 to go. There'll be two more laps then for Bill Oberlin. He's going to be about a minute shy of getting to the end. So it'll be 2 more laps then for Bill Oberlin. White flag next time around for our race leader. 2 minutes 38.8 last time around. Again, super consistent times from our race leader.
And in TCR, the Alpha's been out for over an hour and 10 minutes. Wilkins out for an hour, so they're both on the fumes. We're hearing from the pit wall, Shea Adam, that it's getting very, very squeaky for Turner Motorsport at the front of the field. That was a 38.8 last time for Bill Oberlin. He's got time to give up, but also he's got 15 minutes to give up, but I'm not sure that's going to help him. I think he's still going to have to do 1 more lap, Shea.
But John, he's only 150 points ahead of his teammates, Robbie Foley and Vin Barletta, in the championship. Bill Oberlin cannot afford, from a championship perspective, to run out of fuel and not cross the line within the top 18. We're talking about a huge points deficit, especially with the team car still doing well.
Foley's done exactly the same amount of time, though, so if one of them's going to go, they're likely both going to go. I think they're both soft pedaling to the end. 2 minutes to go. Oberlin with a 15.5-second lead. It's been that for quite some time, with the top 3 cars now in terrible conditions here, and in some ways the bad conditions and the worse the conditions get are helping these guys at the front, because it's stopping the likes of Chad McCumbee, who has got a little more fuel on board. It is stopping them getting back towards them. It's now 4 seconds from McCumbee in the PF Racing Ford between him and a 3rd place on the podium. It was 2.5 seconds the last time I looked. It's stalemate at the front of the field. Everybody lapping in the 38s, 39s, 41 last time around for Robbie Foley in the 96. Everybody is on fumes. Now remember what Jeremy said earlier on. How many fumes have you got? Because if you've got any now, you've got to get them somewhere near the front of the car. And on the wall, we've got the Turner guys on the wall, Shea Adam. Is Bill Oberlin going to risk it? It will be the white flag this time around, or will he splash for a tiny bit of fuel? If he comes in, he's going to lose the lead. He's gone through. He's gone through, so the dice has been rolled. The fueler was on the wall. Now, is that going to be for Robbie Foley? Oh my goodness me. Michelin moment of the race, still in the balance. Do you know what? I think I can see the fuel light on the dashboard for Bill Oberlin. There's a yellow light flashing on the dashboard. I think that's the fuel light. It must have been on for at least a lap. Oberlin, time has expired. He's on the last lap. There's chat going backwards and forwards. Still 15 seconds between himself and Udell. Windward Racing 2nd and 3rd at the moment. What a finish that would be for the team. Meantime, in TCR, Tim Lewis Jr. by 3.5 seconds. Mark Wilkins, is he being caught? No, he's got about a second on Denis Dupont, the Van der Steur Racing Veloster in 3rd. Hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Oberlin will be coasting down all the downhills and saving the fuel for the uphill. In some respects as well, Jeremy, you've got to hope that the fuel pickup's at the back of the tank, because if you're going up that last hill and all the remaining fuel goes to the back and the fuel pickup's at the front, you're in real trouble, aren't you? That would be so cruel.
He's clearly pretty happy, comfortable, I think, with his situation. He just went past the 5th place TCR car of Mikey Taylor on this final lap of the race for Bill Oberlin. He's got just a mile and a half or so to go, and a couple of miles to go, less than that, for Bill Oberlin and Turner Motorsport to pull off what would be an absolutely remarkable performance. Well, yet another remarkable performance for the Californian.
In a career that has been littered with remarkable performances, there's a stutter from the BMW that leads the 95 car. Just coughed a little bit as it was going through the kink there. Is that a bit of fuel surge? Is the fuel pressure dropping? He's got TCR cars right with him there. Canada corner. It's all uphill from here. This is the last lap of the Road America 120 for the Michelin Pilot Challenge 2021. Bill Oberlin leading. We'll get to our Michelin moments of the race once the cars get through the checkered flag. Bill Oberlin has been out on the circuit now for an extraordinary amount of time, over an hour and 16 minutes. He crests the rise. He could kick the clutch in now, and Turner will win it. Turner wins at Road America. Bill Oberlin, with his slippers on, has somehow found the wherewithal and the drops of fuel. He had the fumes. He's got it home. We wait for Alec Udell to bring home a 2-3 for Windward Racing. Indy Donci's dropped a long way back, but I think he's going to get it to the line. Still waiting. Yes, there it is. It's 2-3 for Windward Racing. And Bryce Ward's first stint there, where he carved his way up from the bottom end of the top 10, has been rewarded. What a finish for Windward Racing. And in TCR, where is the Alpha? Coming round to finish the lap. Tim Lewis Jr. For me, the Michelin moment of the race there was Tim Lewis Jr. not losing his cool when he was passed by the Hyundais. kept to the game plan, kept to the race. He's being closed down on by Mark Wilkins again towards the end of the race. Mark Wilkins actually is in a scrap. Denny Dupont is just a 1/10 of a second. Chad McCumbee hasn't come across the line, so the PF Racing Ford Mustang hasn't got to the finish, and he's dropped down to the end of the top 10. Look, yeah, that car stopped, and TGM have come in for a splash as they were starting the final lap. So there's still drama. My goodness, we asked for drama for the full 120 minutes. We're over the top of that now, and we're still waiting. There's cars cruising around in the murk, in the spray. Here comes the Alpha. Canada Corner on the podium in second place last time out at Lime Rock Park. That was a great run for them. We barely dared mention the name of the car, but they've done a cracking job. Now, can he get this car up the last hill through the final corner? Nowhere near the edge of the track. And there's the PF car. He stopped at the base of the hill, going to the final, up to the final, run to the line. Through comes the Alpha to win TCR. Tim Lewis Jr. finishes off a wonderful race for KMW Motorsport, and the Alpha go one better than the second place last time out. Magnificent stuff. McCumbee stopped at the bottom of the run to the line and will drop way down outside, getting down towards the bottom end of the top 20, 18th position in GS. It looks like a few people have run short of go juice on the last run to the flag. A fuel race par excellence for those who got it right. Heartbreak for those that didn't. I think we're all in agreement that the TCR Michelin moment of the race is going to be the Alpha, and particularly for Tim Lewis, who kept his head.
What, John? I'm not going to disagree with that, but a brilliant effort by Van der Steur Racing.
Yes, agreed. Got second on the last lap.
This season. Yes. It's been a tremendous performance by that team.
Another car that's run out of petrol on the last lap is Mark Wilkins. He was in second. He's run out of petrol on the last lap as well. Parker Chase up to third. DuPont up to second. So Van der Steur, that's another great race. Tim Lewis then wins the TCR a moment of the race. Well, KMW do, but Tim kept his head even when he was passed by the Hyundais. And can we in all conscience give it to anybody but Bill Orban? It's not always going to go to the leaders, but what do we think? Well, Shea, are you happy? Jeremy, what do you reckon? Last call.
I tell you, the other team that really deserves a lot of kudos here is MIA. The McLaren team, they made the decision early on in this stint to go for it. Spencer Pigot got himself up into second position. They knew they weren't going to get to the end. They came in and made a pit stop, and they come out there and finished in the 6th position. They started in 17th. That was a great run by MIA as well. But let's take nothing away. I mean, what a great performance by Bill Oberlin. He's the veteran in his field, a brilliant driver. Don Salama, the strategist there at Turner Motorsport. Fantastic effort. So all sorts of great performances in this race, John.
33 car is stranded at the side of the circuit. Shea, Adam, heartbreak for the Hyundai Elantra and Mark Wilkins in the team.
Oh no, it was after he crossed the finish line in the 4th position, but the race control message says cars stopped turn 5, 6, 12, 14, and the start finish line. So they are strewn all around the circuit. There were many people who were a little too tight on fuel.
He did lose second place though, so he had to soft pedal so much that he lost second place. In fact, the only reason that he's in 4th, Shea, is because the other cars were a lap down. So that's why he's held on to 4th. I don't think he crossed the finishing line. I think he started the last lap, Jeremy, but he hasn't finished it.
That's exactly right, John. Yes, that's exactly right. And Mikey Taylor, he was lapped on that last lap, wasn't he? So he will cross the line there. But number 33 car didn't take the checkered flag, I don't believe.
Correct. I'd agree with that.
That was a lot of fun.
Let's go.
Well, Jeremy, sum that one up as we watch a very happy Bill Oberlin extract himself from what must be a very light Turner Motorsport car. For goodness sake, don't open the fuel cap because you'll never get it to restart.
Magnificent. Bill Oberlin, that's his 18th victory in his 110th start in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. A tremendous performance. They had bad luck, he and Dylan McEvoy at Lime Rock Park, but what a way to bounce back. They won the previous race before that at Watkins Glen, were in the championship lead for quite a way, but coming into this weekend with that problem at Lime Rock Park, they were only tied on points for the leader. Now an emphatic, brilliant drive to victory by Turner Motorsport, and Dylan McEvoy did a tremendous opening stint, and Bill Oberlin did the rest from there.
Honourable mention for Winward for a great pit stop strategy. They turned their cars around really quickly, and you know, again, they did what they needed to do. All right, 15 seconds short in the final analysis, but second and third for those guys, they'll be delighted with that. But the moments of the race, TCR going to the Alpha team of KMW Motorsports, and Tim Lewis keeping his head when he was battling for the lead. He knew what he had to do to get well over an hour, and getting on for an hour and 18 minutes actually. And Bill Oberlin pretty much the same. In fact, the top three all having to get the same in that, and it goes to Turner Motorsport, the number 95 car. Brilliant stuff from all of those teams, and very, very impressive. Bill Oberlin notches up another victory in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Jeremy Shaw was alongside me, John Hindhoff, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam kept us up to date with the VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report. Good enough for you? Well, we've got more racing tomorrow on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Let's stand all of our camera operators down. They've done cracking work in bad conditions, as have all the volunteers. And thanks to the team up in Charlotte, Richie Bashili, and the rest of the team. Thanks to Keith and to Alicia as well, and to Tyler Norling and the rest of our technical team trackside here at Road America. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon, evening or night, wherever you are. Michelin Pilot Challenge is in the books. Turner win in GS, and Alfa Romeo Giulietta with KMW Motorsports win TCR. Bye-bye.